So here's the pitch, okay? We've all seen Miss Swifts. It's that outtake show, and it was running in. I saw chat spamming when I told Jordan to focus. So we're gonna run with that. Strike while the iron is hot. Jordan sitting at his desk at the video team section. I don't know what they do. I don't care what they do. But for the premise of this video, cannot be focused. Watching anime butts on one screen. I don't care what he's doing. Just can't be working. All right. And then he hears Miss Swifts. Big TV right behind him. Miss Swifts playing. Here's the line. It says Jordan, focus. Okay. And then his eyes go wide. He turns around, turns off the TV. He's trying to get rid of me. He knows he's not focused, but he knows he needs to be. But goes back to his desk, goes back to doing whatever he's doing. But he has to focus. So I'm at his window. Boom, slam on the window. I'm like the Babadook, okay? He doesn't know where I'm coming from. I slam the window, piece of paper, says focus. He does a little bit. He focuses a little bit. He doesn't turn off the anime butts. No. He flips his hat around, Ash Ketchum style. I don't know. And then he goes back to doing anything he wants, but not focusing. That's not enough for me. That's not enough for hi-rez. It's not enough for what we stand for. So I appear behind the wall behind him, okay? Boom, Mifflin, up there. I tell him to tighten up. He needs to focus. He does a little bit more. He focuses a little bit, but not enough, okay? And then it's not enough for me. It's not enough for me, okay? We have to go even further beyond that, all right? He does eventually close the screen, but that's not enough. I'm still appearing. I'm appearing everywhere. I'm in the bathroom. I'm in his cereal. I'm in his snacks. I'm telling him to focus, and eventually he switches desks. I'm under his desk, okay? I'm telling him to focus there, and that's where it happens. He sits in a maxonomic chair, his eyes dilate, and he finally finds his focus.
Okay. Approved.
I sold it? I sold it! Yes! I'm gonna sell so many chairs.
Jordan, what the f was that? We just lived a fever dream. I have no idea what just happened, and we approved it.
What kind of anime butts we talking? What kind of anime butts we talking?
You broke me.
And welcome back to the SMITE Pro League. Here for our second set of the day. It's the Tartarus Titans and the Oni Warriors facing off here for our second matchups. J. Mac Tucker and Mifflin. And a shout out to our seat sponsor, of course, Maxonomic, for providing such comfortable and luxurious chairs for you. You can get yours too over at needforseat.com and use code SMITEMAX. Yourself a discount so you can focus up, tighten up, get your head in the game, but most importantly, get you ready for this next set because it's sure to be a good one with a newly revitalized Oni Warriors that we saw yesterday going up against the former Phase 2 champions of the Tartarus Titans. Sure to be a good battle here, Mifflin.
Man, and you know what? It was very recently we could have just said, oh, the newly revitalized Tartarus Titans.
Right.
Because, I mean, Layers is still, I would consider, a new addition to this team, but considering they are the playoff champions, you got to put just some raw respect onto their name. So, Oni Warriors, they are looking good, but are they looking playoff champions good? I'm not sure.
Well, let's see how it all lines out for them. Let's take a look at the schedule to see anything you may have missed for earlier today. If you're just now tuning in, you missed the Atlantis Leviathans and Camelot Kings matchup. Well, that one went in favor of the Atlantis Leviathans, a 2-0 for them. And now we're here to the current, present time. Oni Warriors, Tartarus Titans will face off for our second set of today. Atlantis Leviathans and Valkyries tomorrow. Tartarus Titans and Solar Scarabs tomorrow as well. So you don't want to miss out on those.
That one's in studio.
That one is in studio. That's going to be a big one. So you definitely don't want to miss out there. But that's in the future. We're in the present. Oni Warriors, Tartarus Titans. Talking about these two teams, talking about big, impactful players among these two teams. Mifflin, one of the first names that really comes to mind, especially for this Tartarus Titans roster, has got to be Paul.
Yeah, and when you talk about Paul, for me, you should also be in that same breath saying, in contention for the best to have ever done it, right? This guy is that mechanically talented. He's plug and play. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen Paul on a team, and I wasn't like, wow, he just instantly made that team better. This guy doesn't need synergies. I mean, it helps him, to be sure, when you're able to work out with your squad, but he just works, man. This man just puts in work. He's like a SMITE hitman. You pay him, he shows up, and he plays incredibly well. And it doesn't matter what god you put him on either. Is he going to play Tiamat? Yeah, at the top level. Is he going to play Persephone? If he has to. Hebo, got those. Hell, we got those too. I mean, this guy is versatile. He's hard to lock down. He's a mechanical genius. And he's just a handsome young man as well, to boot.
I'm looking at a 5.67 KDA coming from a mid laner.
It's too many.
Absurd numbers that a mid laner is allowed to have that level of comfort, that level of really kill power for it. And the fact that he even got Tiamat 4 games in a row in the finals of the Phase 2 playoffs, not something you should probably give to him this time around. Though, in some of our recent sets, we haven't been seeing as much Tiamat. Maybe we'll talk to Paul and see if maybe he'll get to see some Tiamat today. Paul, thanks for standing
What's up,
by
man?
for the pregame interview. How you feeling after the Phase 2 playoffs there? How's the kind of the vibe of the team going?
I don't know, man. We're just chilling, dude. No, we're just chilling, having a good time, dude. We want to play some SPL, and also Layers is here now, so that's sick.
Oh, you got Layers there with
No,
you at the
I
house
don't-
now. You got a whole party going on. You got the fidget spinner. You got Layers along with you. You know, kind of talking about Layers, now that he's kind of gotten a chance to be with the team for a little while as far as the gameplay, and now kind of be with you guys there at the house. What's kind of how's everybody feel about Layers here? I imagine pretty good.
Yeah. Everyone's feeling pretty good about it. How does this thing work? It
So-
doesn't
so-
work,
bearings in
man.
there.
So what you do, you put thumb on the thumb on one side.
Oh, thumb
and
on
then,
the bottom.
like middle finger on the other side.
Oh, he's nailing it.
See, okay. Use the
Like
other finger. There you
this?
go, and then you spin it with the other hand. There you go. Now you got it going for
Oh!
it.
Oh!
Dude, you're a wizard. You're a wizard with the fidget spinner. Thank you so much, Paula. Enjoy your time with the
Thank
fidget
you.
spinner. Enjoy your time in the game, and good luck against the Warriors.
Thanks for teaching me, man.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
No problem, man. All right, well, you gotta learn something new every day, especially for Paul. You gotta learn how to use a fidget spinner, at least somewhat decent with it. He was able to get a run in there, Mifflin.
I mean, I don't think you can evaluate skill with a fidget spinner, right? If it's moving, you're doing it. I don't think any one
that's
person is
fair.
better at it than the other. It's like a
I don't-
light switch. Either it's on or it's off.
I don't know. I've seen some pretty nutty fidget spinner action. That's the word I'm trying to say.
Where?
Online, man. Have you never seen like
what circles of the internet are you on, man?
I mean, they were huge for such a long time. They were all over Twitter at one point. I mean, people everywhere have fidget
All right.
spinners. I mean, they were the hot topic for such a long time. But now going into the hot topic of today, let's talk about the Oni Warriors. They had a big matchup yesterday against the Bolts. Looked really strong. Even took a game off of them where in Phase 2, they were kind of struggling to find wins, even against some of the middle-of-the-pack teams. I think the Oni Warriors, specifically kind of Dardaz in this matchup, kind of stacks up to the Titans.
Well, I just sung infinite praises of Paul, and Dardaz is an incredibly talented player in his own right as well. I think the interesting part of the game that Dardaz brings is his very strange, eclectic god pool. I mean, he'll play Aphrodite, he'll play Hera. I think he's very willing to go towards things like the Nox as well. So who else is really doing that? Not many people. That makes it very difficult for teams to really lock down the Oni Warriors. Dardaz is generating threat in the P's and B's, opening the door to find other priority picks for his squad. I mean, it's just that versatile for his team. But as you said, just coming off a set against the Olympus Bolts, the Oni Warriors were looking incredibly good. And it's not just that they took one game, it's that they forced them into a incredibly long, like 2.5 hour, maybe nearly 3 hour set up against the Olympus Bolts. And this is a team that has been historically struggling here in Season 8. Maybe just not showing up at playoffs the way they wanted to really put a fire under them, because they are looking very different.
Yeah, it's a completely new phase, and it feels like a completely new team from the Warriors. I know one thing that Agro was talking about earlier was, are we going to see the Tartarus Titans from the Bolts that we got to see yesterday, or are we going to see kind of shades of old with this Tartarus Titan, or with this Oni Warriors team? I can't even think of what I'm trying to say here anymore, man.
Just too excited for the game.
I'm pumped for this one. We got both teams in red here facing it off. It's going to be a big matchup for it. I'm very excited to see what we'll see out of these mid laners and the rest of the teams around them, because it's obviously not just about the mid laners. There's a whole other roster of players along both of these teams.
Yeah, I'd say it's like 85% junglers, 5% mid laners, and then like the rest of them.
For like,
Just like that's what SMITE is. I just gave you the equation for SMITE.
so it's only 5% mid laners.
Uh-huh.
You might want to tell that to Shinto, who went like 10-0 last set.
Yeah, that's fine. He's got Panatom over there, dude. That guy's sick.
I
Don't
mean,
we have like picks and bans to do or
I
something?
think we do have picks and bans. Maybe those are ready for us. Maybe we can actually move to the topic for it, but maybe not quite yet for it either. So,
Oh, okay.
Well, it's going to be, it's sure to be a sparks flying match between these two teams. I'm curious where all the picks and bans will line up for them. And now with Layers in-house, they got Layers live with them. So we'll maybe get to see even more performance coming out of these Tartarus Titans. If they were doing that well in an online setting between each other, now we get to see them together here in under one roof. Even Cyclone's been jumping in the midst for. Now we get to see him. I think that's the first time we've seen Cyclone spin on camera.
Maybe with his own individual cam. Usually we get to see Cyclone spin like in the back of Aurora's cam, like just kind of hovering around. But now we get to see him in his full glory here, and he's been having a really insane run the last couple of times we've seen Cyclone spin. I mean, that Artemis performance at playoffs was ridiculous. I don't think we'll be allowed to see him play that one here today. If the Oni Warriors lets Artemis through, I'm expecting the Tartarus Titans to slam lock it in that first slot and never look back. That is how dominant Cyclone Spin has been looking recently, but it's not just the Artemis that he's capable of piloting. I mean, Izanami has been working out mightily well for him. His ROM is incredibly strong as well. You know, he's actually got the largest God pool inside of the SPL according to Goremiser's facts, so maybe it's not worth listing out everything he's capable of playing and instead listing the things that he isn't, and I'm not sure there is any.
Yeah, especially when he came from a solo lane background, and that was during the meta where you could play just about anything that you wanted in solo. I mean, he was playing Uller, Kali, Bakasura. His god pool is infinitely growing. As long as there are new gods added in Smite, you can expect there will be new gods added in Cyclone's god pool. And as the first phase of bans come through, a little bit of a difference as far as where the Titans' priority of bans is compared to what the Bolts ban against the Warriors. The Titans go for a Kuzenbo ban. Neil got to play it 3 games in a row yesterday, so they banned it this time with Terra Erlong. On the other side, the same bans that we saw from the Warriors yesterday. They don't want to see Ardia, they want to see Emoja and Hell, but a Kepri, Cerberus, and then a Rom locked in for these teams. And I'm kind of with you here, Mifflin. Where's the Tiamat?
Hey, maybe it's right here. Tiamat Artemis. Let's see it, Tartarus Titans. The Oni Warriors sets are so interesting inside of the P's and B's because I think they actually adjust the priority order of the teams they're playing against. Are the Tartarus Titans a squad that are generally first picking Capri? I mean, every here and there, sure, but not something we are used to seeing inside of that first pick selection. Tartarus Titans, though, are thinking about it. Look, man, Tiamat and Artemis are out there. They're just out there, and I don't know what they're thinking about.
And it's 2 players who performed exceptionally well with it during the playoffs.
Yeah, Paul played it like 4 games straight.
And won 3 of those 4 and still looked good even in the game that he lost. You know, 30+ thousand player damage every single game. Well, there's one of the 2 at least. It'll be Chernobog for the Titans. But Tiamat somehow makes it all the way to a 5th pick total in the lineup. It still manages to make it through top 3. But it's weird to even say that she made it to a top 3 for the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Paul's just fine with it, or maybe he isn't. Maybe he's just like, hey, I want to play anything else. I know she's good, but can I just get a little bit of variety in my pick selections? And the rest of the Titans are like, no, she's just that strong. You gotta lock it in. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Oni Warriors gonna pick up Serket for themselves, and that is likely headed towards the support role. If history's any indicator, Cerberus generally pretty strong inside of the solo lane, and we know what Vote is capable of doing on this ROM pick. So I like the Oni Warriors core 3 as of right now, but it's a lot of single target damage. I mean, Serkat's ultimate single target, the majority of her damage single target. ROM generally auto attacks, and the snipes not really AoE. Even Cerberus with the paralyzing spit, all single target. And what do the Titans have on the other side to deal with that? Scarab's Blessing. I mean, if you're going for one guy, it's pretty easy for the Titans to peel that one guy.
That'll be a big, nice, easy target for Aurora to hit with that ultimate. As we go through the second phase of bans, Kamazot's taken away, so taking a shot at Layers there. He had a strong performance on that during the playoffs as well. There was a couple of huge games that came up for him. And with the Odin ban as their second one, option goes back towards the Titans for what they want to finish out their bans with. It'll be a Morgan, the Morgan, and a Fafnir banned away. So not convinced entirely maybe that the Serket is going the way of support. It is still an assassin, so we do still have to respect the potential that this could go jungle, but it's so strange the last couple of weeks of play, we've mostly just been seeing Serket go support.
Yeah, I mean, Cubo Fred is very capable of playing Serket inside of the jungle, so I think the Tartarus Titans wisely just kind of saying, all right, if Fafnir does get picked, it would be super annoying to deal with it, like incredibly annoying to deal with that, so they just get rid of it immediately. I gotta agree with the decision making there, but what is left available and on the table? There's still a lot of priority picks out there, and the Oni Warriors, who have still not locked in their mid laner, essentially have the pick of the litter for themselves. I mean, Hera, that's one of Dardaz's specials. Aphrodite's still out there as well. Keep your eyes on it. The Oni Warriors can just go ahead and wait it out, I think. I mean, there's no way the Titans are dipping into their god pool.
Even if you just want to go with top-end gods who are up there. Raijin, Morgan Le Fay still available.
No, this is the Warriors. They don't do those.
I mean, you gotta imagine,
It's
you gotta
hair
imagine
afro.
Raijin is still in the discussion. Maybe Giannis, maybe? I don't know.
It's hair afro.
Okay, Hera Afro. We'll see if it's one of those two
It better
as
be.
we jump in, but we'll have to delay that thought with a Kabrakan. This still brings a little bit of that ambiguity for this team. Not 100% sold where now any of these 3 picks are going. Kabrakan, we've been seeing a lot more solo lane than anything else, but Kabrakan has been shown support. I know Aurora used to like to run it as far as the support role goes. We've seen Kabrakan jungle, Serket support, Serket jungle, Cerberus solo support. So much flex option for this Oni Warriors, and they're saving their mid lane for their last pick. Now it's back over to the Titans to see where they lock their final 2 in.
Bro, it's gotta be Serket in support, right? Kabrakan jungle, Cerberus solo. If I had to guess, if I were a betting man, and I am absolutely not, it's not the case. Aggro is shaking his head
Are you sure?
vehemently right now. I'm not sure if he's shaking his head that I'm not a betting man, or if he disagrees with my allocation of these guys. Oh, it's both. It's both. Okay.
So he's telling us it's both.
I'm gonna be so right. I can't wait. He's gonna be thrown off his whole game while he's casting
so
this.
you're going. Well, we got
Well, I
your
don't
thought.
bet.
We got your thought for it. So I'm gonna throw my guess here. I'm gonna say it's gonna be Cerberus going the way of solo.
Okay.
We're gonna have Kabrakan support.
All right.
And then Serket jungle. I'm gonna throw that fun with there. I might be wrong.
Aggro's not shaking his head as
you.
you. Maybe he agrees.
Maybe.
He's closer.
Maybe. Aggro says I'm a little bit closer here.
So he
for
doesn't
it.
agree with either of us.
So no, he doesn't. He doesn't go through.
Hey,
Hera and
Discordia
Afro-
locked in. Nice.
Hera Afra, not the picks available. Instead, it'll be Discordia. And
Bro,
no
this is the
surprise-
SPL. Take it seriously, J-Max. Stop memeing me, bro.
What do you mean talking about memeing you? You're
Look
the
at
one.
the camera. Don't look at me.
Look over here. I'm looking at a Sobek and an Osiris locked
Good.
in for the Titans, and a Discordia, not Hera, not Afro, not Raijin, not Morgan Le Fay,
That's
none of
just
those
unlucky.
other picks. It's a Discordia for the 10th pick here for the Warriors. How do you like this kind of round out this draft?
I don't. Should have been Hera Afro. Obviously, just having a little bit of fun here. Discordia is a very good pick. I mean, it fits well with his aggressive composition. If your soul laner is going to be a bully, and I think it will be, because Cerberus is obviously headed into the soul lane, likely going to have that Discordia passive for the majority of the match. But if we're evaluating these team compositions holistically, I think the Tartarus Titans come out head and shoulder above.
So a little bit more obvious kind of where this Titans draft is going. We're still a little up in the air of where the Warriors might be lining out here with the Cerberus, Kabrakan, Serket. A lot of flexibility between it. Maybe it's a little bit more clear cut and dry than we're evaluating here. Maybe it is just an obvious guess for it. We'll have to see how it goes in the game. We'll have to see where everything lines out. Where you kind of put in your favor for these two teams this game once it gets ready to start off.
Yeah, the Titans. I like their comp a lot. It's really good. Look, if we're evaluating late game prowess, Tiamat scales incredibly well. Sobek's going to be a great facilitator. Last time we saw Cyclone Swin play Chernobog, I believe, was up against Stewart, and he got like 4 solo kills. I mean, there were team fights happening on the opposite side of the map, and Cyclone was like, no, I'm going to go head over to this Hunter and make sure they're not able to have fun. These are all picks for the Titans that I think fit their playstyle incredibly well. But that's not to say that the Oni Warriors aren't capable of fighting in. They've looked incredibly good in recent weeks, especially in that last set up against the Olympus Bolts. I think they got a composition that fits their style. But unfortunately for them, it's been a hard week. Olympus Bolts and now into the Tartarus Titans, the playoff champions. Their work's cut out for them.
Talk about a rough week to start out for the Oni Warriors, but still looking good against the Olympus Bolts. Took them to all 3 games. And the game that they did win, they had the Cerberus-Rom combo for them. So maybe by getting Vote on something a little bit more comfortable, getting them on that Game 1 victory they had, maybe that might be enough here. The Oni Warriors to try and pull forward and take game number 1 of this set. But as you highlighted, this Tartarus Titans, an extremely strong late game, and with all the single target, even throwing a Kabrakan in there, heavy single target, and there's that one button on the other side for the Titans in that first slot. That's Scarab's blessing.
But Kabrakan isn't just that single target damage bot. He is also going to bring a little bit of utility to these team fights. If he's able to isolate Kepri or even to a certain extent Chernobog inside of these jungle fights, Sobek as well going to really struggle to get through those walls. I think that he could just kind of be a secondary support because he isn't going into support.
Who's going to take game 1? Will it be the Titans? Will it be the Warriors? We're going to take it to the casters to bring us the action.
It'll be our second look of the phase at the Oni Warriors and our first look of the phase at your Phase 2 champions, the Tartarus Titans. Dolson, Aggro, and Doug bringing you some SPL action. The S, of course, stands for serious, and we never deviate from that, not for one moment.
Where's the S?
What?
The S stands for serious, you said.
Yeah, the Serious Pro League.
Oh. Well, what game is it for?
Yeah, that's an issue. Well, you could emphasize. We're already breaking from the Serious Pro League here. If you went SPL, like an extra S in there, the Serious SMITE Pro League, then we're on to something, I think. This is great. No, this is fantastic. I'm glad.
What a
that
start, Dave. I told you my cast was gonna suck. Huh? What's
Yeah,
your
you're
deal?
right. Well, it's because your pillow was warm and you can't
Yeah.
flip it over. Yeah, right. We'll blame your wife, and I think that's a great
As per
start
usual.
from you, right?
Yep, as per usual.
And this time you're doing it. Well, I guess it was public anyway on Twitter. Let's give this this early game its due course before things maybe get off the rails here. I forgot what Myth predicted. Did we say Cabrakan support and Nika?
J-Mac did. Mifflin did not.
Got it. Okay, so J-Mac was right. Mifflin was not right. What do we think here? Neoma played Kuzenbo a whole bunch yesterday. Not surprising that he caught some bans here because felt like that was driving a lot of the front line for the Oni Warriors. Another eclectic pick here for Neoma, unfortunately. Somewhat easy to abduct the Cabrakan back in.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of damage in the lane once you hit level 2. Level 1, of course, you get prio because of tremors. Look, Kuzenbo and Cabrakan are of the same vein of support. It is dive-oriented with good enough peel options, but mostly dive, annoying CC to deal with. Now, Kuzenbo, of course, has the reflect mechanic that Cabrakan does not, but they fit similar roles. And so I like the Warriors understanding that it's probably going to get banned. We got to have a backup plan. I think Cabrakan as your Kuzenbo B is a fine selection for the Warriors. And when we were talking about how the Warriors need to keep their momentum from yesterday, going with the same style of composition I think is a good start. Getting Nika back on the Cerberus where he looked absolutely dominant. Vote on the ROM.
Despite a loss.
Despite a loss. Fred on a Circuit pick that is easy to be impactful on. I like the idea here for the Warriors. The question is about this Discordia for Dardaz. He doesn't go with the Hera. Makes sense to me. I think Disco provides a little bit more safety against this Titans comp. I think it has some good matchups up against the Khepri. A lot of times against Khepri, you want abilities that you can punish a Khepri for rezzing a target. And Strife does that really well. As soon as they res, you pull them both together, kill them again. Apple does that really well. It's very easy to time. You can even toss it on the Khepri.
Ooh, how about this? Cubo Fred blinks over the wall, attempts to steal away the red buff, and in fact he does. So it's early pressure from Cubo Fred on the Circuit, and then continued pressure around this purple buff. The tremble on out from Neoma as the damage flies through from Cyclone Spin on the attempted secure, but it won't be successful. So the Oni Warriors send some pressure with the Circuit, and they get both buff invades on the left.
Really, really good play by Fred. It's a safe play as well because Benji's on a Guardian, so you know that your right side isn't going to get invaded by the Warrior alone. And Layers doesn't recognize that he's getting counter jungled on the left. Needed to go vertical with his path there instead of crossing back over the left. So he comes left, and all he gets is back Harpies and Oracles. Whereas Fred gets to go back to his right-hand side, get his speed buff, get his back Harpies, and be in a really good position. So good identification from Fred for a window, and ends up punishing the Titan spin.
Now, I mean, we've talked about Dardaz and his Discordia and why that could be good in this matchup, and I think all of those points still stand. At some point, we got to wonder when teams in general will stop giving Paul this Tiamat, because I figured it would be at some point throughout the Phase 2 finals, right? I mean, there was an answer for it in 1 of 4 games.
Yeah.
Not in the other 3, the 3 that the Tartarus Titans won. I call it a roll of the dice. It feels like you're rolling the dice every time you give this pick over to Paul. I love this little dance. I am going to pause this point because it is fun to watch. Benji with the tail whip will secure the lane. What is it, a scorpion? I don't know what that guy is. Lane scorpion there. But it feels like it's a roll of the dice every time you let Paul get a pick that can be as impactful as this.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I am very surprised that Paul continues to get this pick. Very, 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 very surprised. And eventually, teams are going to realize that Paul's the type of player, just like Shinto, where sometimes teams will look psycho for giving him picks, but the reality is that he'll dominate you on most things.
Sure.
Tiamat's in the tier above for Paul. He is nearly unstoppable on this selection.
Another red buff invade from the Oni Warriors, this time secured by the Tartarus Titans. Cubo Fred leaps on out. Aurora will pick up the red buff. Paul maybe had a chance to go back. I love the little pump fake. He walks over and then immediately turns away.
Yeah, he's like, oh, great, we secured red, right, guys? And Aurora's like,
actually,
we
gold
didn't.
or XP or the red.
Yeah, actually, they got it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
That's
lucky.
the answer to the Tiamat is his own team doesn't give Paul the red buff.
Right. Yeah.
But then he gets to solo farm the mid harpies up, I guess.
Well, that was going to happen no matter what. This is
That's
this
gonna
is the
happen
Paul
anyway.
strat. Right. That you're not sharing a whole lot of farm.
And
with
here's
them.
the good news. Well, Aurora goes back to base. Now you've got red buff on Kepri, right? So there's huge kill pressure on the left side.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that through my teeth at all. That was very, very serious.
I mean, I think Kepri does give you pretty good kill potential in the early game because he kills tanks really well, and those are the easiest characters to kill early. So, in that sense, yes. I would argue, Dave, that the red buff doesn't make a massive difference for Aurora, but maybe it will. You know,
Yeah, maybe it will.
We shall see.
I wonder, and speaking of difference making, I do wonder how much of a difference Layers being with this team now will make. I mean, they won Phase 2 playoffs with Layers, not in the house, not with the team. You got the whole squad together. You'd figure, right, that's nothing but a net increase as far as synergy, chemistry, those types of things.
Especially early on. I mean, let's be real. The realities of having roommates is not always easy, but in the beginning, you're having fun. You're super excited to be here.
That's why I live alone.
Right. That's for sure the reason only. It's really easy to have a great time and hit that next stride in these moments. I mean, you look back at Season 5 Splice and a team that was really struggling. That was Aurora and Cyclone Spin on that squad. And they were really struggling in spring and took a trip in the summer to all play together. It was East Coast, so that made a big difference that Cyclone wasn't playing on West Coast ping, and neither was Divios. But at the end of the day, I think that having that time in person with one another made a big difference for a team that eventually went on to win a world championship. So in that sense, the Titans trying to strengthen their bonds as teammates is certainly a good thing.
How about this call from the Titans? That the red buff and the purple buff have been looked at on both of the previous respawns. So they'll send Layers over to the left side of the map. Red buff dropped down and secured by Paul this time. Still a purple buff to maybe be fought over, but Layers is going to be here as a bit of security as well. And so he'll be there to defend.
Nice little interaction there from Neil and some matchup knowledge for you in Cabrakan versus Kepri. Whenever you're Kepri abducted, you're silenced, but if you've pre-popped your one on Cabrakan, you can still auto-attack because it's just an auto-attack enhance, and you can just turn and hit him with one auto and it'll stun him, and your abduct is over. So Neil did that right there, made sure that he wasn't going to get CC chained for a long time. And as I mentioned, that's a big strength of Kepri is killing tanks in the early, using your really good CCs that don't DR one another in order to overlap your CC and keep someone locked down for a long time. Cabrakan doesn't have to worry about that nearly as much. It's all centered around the one. I mean, he's root immune in the one, so Kepri root doesn't matter to him. And then the ability to pre-pop it as you get abducted and then send him out.
Are you interested? Or are you intrigued at all with the pace of this game so far? I mean, the desk talked about how the scaling of the Tartarus Titans is pretty terrifying. When you got a team out on your team, it's always going to be the case. But then Sobek and some other picks outside of that. You feel like the onus is on the Oni Warriors to push this pace a little bit more right now, or are they happy to be even 8 minutes in?
I think I would prefer the Warriors to be slightly more aggressive, but it's hard. I mean,
there's not
the
much
Titans
you can
just
do.
have a Kepri. It's difficult to beat. I mean, this is basically the
I guess they have been invading. They've tried, right?
Yeah, they've tried. It's not like the Warriors have been sitting on their hands entirely, but Fred has not been aggressive on enemy gods until right now.
Hugo Fred gets a little damage Paul's way. Stun onto Layers from Neoma. So Paul rotates over. Another red buff spawn and another showing from the Oni Warriors. Neoma locked into place, taken down. First blood over to Paul on the team at worst case scenario for the Oni Warriors. Up to the sky goes Voten. Hugo Fred is answered back with one Aurora. If timing perfect, Scarab's Blessing will dash on out of the stripe. And it looks like Aurora will survive, and Layers chopping away on the back line, gets the Titan second.
And Fred's still in trouble too, has the ultimate, lands. No, it didn't, it just missed.
Layers still chasing down onto Dardaz, though. Paul, full HP, full mana. He's got something to say about it. Dardaz into the stealth will reset some of those cooldowns, and Dardaz actually breaks the ankles a bit, and it looks like the Discordia
Blinks up.
might be safe, but Layers blinks forward. The dash away from Dardaz, and Layers makes him pay. 3-kill swing for the Titans.
Man, no justice in the world for Dardaz that he makes a big play like that and then still gets found out because Layers simply has blink at the back end. But that was just Neil being way too far forward, uses his one without a whole lot of reason to. I mean, stuns Layers, and then Layers just instantly goes, hey, his one's down. We can root him. We can Kepri abduct him. This guy's just toast. And the Warriors then have to devote a little bit too much to try and get in there and save Neil. Now, good aggression on a Cyclone Spin, some good damage onto him. Fred had the right target. and Cyclone did end up falling, but Aurora ends up surviving. Paul goes through that whole team fight untouched, and it's going to be difficult to execute a dive up against the Kepri when I think that the Warriors don't have great team fight AoE. You know, Discordia is good at punishing a small grouping. You know, Strife isn't a huge area, but if you can get a couple of people, it's obviously very strong.
You got Neomod for that, right? You can wall some people off.
No, not you can wall one person off the vast majority of the time, but you're not going to wall off a whole team. It's just difficult, I think, for the Warriors because their composition is much better at killing one person.
Sure.
And Aurora got Kepri, so that doesn't really work.
And I guess if we're giving due credit to the Oni Warriors, and actually there was the conversation we were having just prior to that fight, Oni Warriors maybe pushed the pace a little bit in the early game, a couple successful red buff and purple buff invades. That was kind of the 4th attempt at it, and that was the first time we saw the Titans feel maybe aggressive enough to team fight back in.
So the good news, if you're the Warriors, is even though I think their composition is a little bit too single target focused, they have really good CC that can be spread out over a team fight. So the ideal scenario for the Warriors isn't that they dump everything into one character and hope Aurora messes up. It's really that we want to use a little bit on one character, put them in a threat position so that Aurora has to use his ultimate or they have to use a relic, and then our next frontliner is going to blink in. You know, Serket goes in first, then Cabrakan goes in. Then Cabrakan out, Cerberus in. You know, you have to tank switch really well with this style of composition for the Warriors, which hasn't necessarily been a great strength of theirs this season. But if they can make it work, this comp is really, really good at it because you've got CC that will kill players if it's not immune properly, and you have a lot that they have to immune, and they don't have all the tools to do that. So in that sense, I think the Warriors composition can be very successful, but it has to be in, you know, first tank in, that player out, next tank in, that player out, third tank in. And that has to happen basically every team fight, and that's a difficult task to manage.
And it's going to be difficult when you're down by 2,000 gold and 2,000 experience 12.5 minutes into the game, as the Pyromancer notches that gold lead for the Tartarus Titans just a little bit further. So, where does that XP differential lie? Layers has got the 1 level lead over Cubo. Fred has fought and farmed successfully. Mid lane, Paul maintains about a 1 level lead. Things were a bit ahead, for Neomod just a moment ago over Aurora, but Aurora's evened things up there. And it's not like that really changes the mindset of the Titans, right? It feels like you're wanting to play around Paul anyway, but now doubly so, that he's got a bit of a lead, and you got Chronos Pendant and Soul Gem early, so you got some extra burst.
Yeah, I love the spot that Paul's in. He's going for the same build that he was going during playoffs, which is no pen until 4th. And that is a bit scary up against Serket that's going to be building protections. Of course, double Guardian that you have to go up against. I don't love it in that sense. I think that going Chronos Pendant into Soul Gem feels really good as a 2-item power spike, but it prevents your 3rd item power spike from feeling really good. It requires you to get to 4 items before you start to really feel like you're a full character doing what you need to be doing. But if the pace of this game is going to continue, then chances that Paul gets to 4 items before it starts to really matter, or even 3.5, because at least you get 10% pen from Obsidian Shard 2. That will help whenever you're at literally 0 pen before that.
Right. Paul looks like he's about 8,000 gold ahead of Dardaz, so you're playing with that advantage. Dardaz on the flip side also gone Chronos Pendant, Vampiric Shroud as his starter item, and then Spear the Magus after that. We've seen that item picked up a little bit here, aggro, maybe Discordia, the type of pick that can utilize that on a pretty effective basis. So where Paul doesn't have much pen early, Dardaz has added in a little bit.
I like it here for Dardaz because it just helps him put some instant damage onto a backline, and having flat pen feels really good up against someone like Tiamat in particular. And it gives him lifesteal, and if he wants to upgrade this Vampiric Shroud into a Sacrificial Shroud, he's probably going to need this plus Soul Gem in order to do so, and that's probably enough lifesteal. It's not a ton, but it's enough to offset the cost of your health for each of your abilities. If he goes Blood-Soaked, then maybe he didn't need the Magus, but I just think flat pen is underbought, forever. Like I feel like especially casual players don't respect how good flat pen is. In Pro League, it makes sense that these teams on slower paced games aren't going any flat pen except when you need Divine. But you're not going to hear me complaining about a mage building a flat pen option in their first two. I think it's good.
Dardaz, the bigger hurdle is now the XP and then the gold as mentioned earlier. Looks like the front line's going to be difficult to kill for the Titans this game. We can check in with their builds. Benji's got a Pridwin in his third item slot, and then Aurora early with that Bulwark of Hope. So, you know, you get these targets low, or in Benji's case, you get Benji into his ultimate, and then suddenly they're going to be a little bit more difficult to kill right when you think you got him, and then you got a Scarab's Blessing.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. The early Bulwark is interesting from Aurora, but you know you don't have to really worry too much about Circuit damage. It's really this Discordia, Cabrakan, and Cerberus that are going to be doing a lot of the damage to your backline, in particular the Guardians, of course. Maybe wants to go a little bit more physical protection later, but doesn't need it now.
Gold Fury is here, and so is Cyclone Spin right around Neoma. The tether is out. Layers is the one who gets stunned. There's a wall on the backside. Hey, he's walled off 3 people, but with himself. Cyclone Spin picks up the pick. And Gold Fury now easier for the Tartarus Titans.
That's been the plan, is just wait until Neil overextends, and he's done it twice and has been punished very easily by the Titans. I don't know if he had a window to blink out. I think Aurora might have put the 2 on him, and that'll keep you in combat for a long time. So good identification from Aurora. Cyclone,
Big
no
spike.
hesitation in order to get there.
Man, big spike now. 4K gold, 4K experience. Could get worse here. Look at Layers. I mean, why not? Right? Why not walk it, vote? Didn't even need the Scarab's Blessing from Aurora, and that is easy. 302 now on the Osiris Stone Cutting Sword, Wingblade, and Ichabale. So you get an Ichabale as well for Layers. That boxing potential now difficult for Vote.
And he needed it too, because Vo was putting out some good damage
damage.
amidst that minion wave, but clearly not quite good enough. Good identification from Layers that is an easy kill, especially with Aurora close by. Who cares if I get a little low? Snipe start threatening me a little bit. I can tower dive easily. I've got this Khepri. And we talk about Khepri a lot as a god that does a lot for a team composition, but this is where I feel like he's at his most impressive, is when his team is ahead, he is ahead, he brings a lot of CC, he brings a lot of setup. And a lot of times when you're down 5K in 17 minutes, Fred goes in, but doesn't get the Pyromancer.
Well, that cost Fred, though. He blinked over the wall, sends Layers right on back. Pluck from Benji is there to send Cubo Fred pinballing across the jungle. And so Fred will dash away, cost of his blink and his beads. So probably something the Titans feeling okay about. Neoma in mid again. Aurora dashes forward, won't get the abduct onto Neoma, but a strife connects onto Aurora, and Aurora's taken effectively no damage here in mid. So the overwhelming trade there is both relics off of Cubo Fred.
And as I was saying, when you fall this far behind, your win condition is we hope we can pick someone, and someone overextends and we can really punish them for it. And that's not impossible against Khepri. Mispositioning is still on the table, so to speak, but trying to get someone in a team fight who wastes their relics and then we can punish them for that, or bad positioning by Paul or Cyclone, Cyclone going too deep with an ultimate. All of those win conditions require now Aurora, one of the best supports to ever do it, to mess up. And those are usually not winning formulas.
Yeah, few and far between, absolutely, for Aurora. So now Fire Giant aggro starts to get on the menu a little bit here. Oni Warriors, well, they're in the game. Oni Fury, a few minutes away from respawning. Pyromancer already taken down by the Titans just a moment ago. So this is where you might start to see the Vision Wars begin on the right side of the map. But, a 6,500 gold lead, that's something an aggressive team like the Titans might feel comfortable with as far as looking for a pick and then maybe looking for Fire Giant afterwards. Cubo Fred could be first on the menu. He'll send Layers one way, but blocked back, and the tether dashed on out of the Lord of the Afterlife just around the corner. Cubo Fred will survive. Now it's the Apple of Discord on to Layers, who's back by the speed buff. Nika can close this gap. This will be a huge pick, but a Scarab's Blessing, perfect from Aurora, but a Stygian Torment sends them right both back into the backline. Abduct from Aurora keeps Neoma out of this fight. Cyclone Spin weaving in the damage, and he's got the first.
Nika low, but Cyclone lower. Fred has returned, and he's looking for Cyclone, but a great dash.
Cyclone in and out of the wall he goes, and now Paul can feast. Gets the knockup, gets the damage. Won't get the kill onto Cubo Fred. Pesky Cubo Fred keeps surviving. This is where Paul wants to do all that damage. And it feels like the Oni Warriors kind of fought aggro like you said they needed to. You're swapping in targets continuously.
Exactly, and it made it a lot harder for the Titans to find the right window, but it did make it harder for Aurora, who was on point with that Scarab's Blessing, saved Layer's life, And Nika and Neil were on totally different pages on where they were going off the back of that Stygian Torment. Neil thought that they were being delivered to his front doorstep, much like me and my PS5 that I ordered. God knows when that's going to get here.
Oh, so not here yet.
And instead, Nika just Walmarts me and tosses it somewhere else, and I've got no idea where they're going. I've now Kabrakan ulted Casper the Friendly Ghost, and I'm not playing a PS5. That's the end of the story.
Yeah, it's tough for you, but I imagine it'll all end well. We don't claim negative energy here. It's in a nice cushioned box on its way to your front door, I'm sure. And a nice Stygian Torment on its way to Aggro's front door. God, that Torment is Stygian, isn't it?
It sure is.
I can't steal that bit from Miff. That's a good bit from Miff, and I gotta let him have
That's
that
probably his best bit ever.
I think it might be. Starting off with, man, that breath is so ghastly.
Yeah,
Top tier from Miff, and we'll let him have every bit of that one. So, despite a decent fight from the Oni Warriors, it still did extend that gold lead for the Tartarus Titans. Remember, it was like 6,500 as I was talking about it. Now we're getting closer to 8,000. Fire Giant wasn't the immediate target, maybe if that fight went well, but the Oni Fury, a much easier target now spawning. And so maybe the Tartarus Titans shift some focus to that side of the map, and these are the types of objectives where the Oni Warriors have to consider how much they're willing to invest as far as defending and trying to steal or maybe secure for themselves.
This is where it becomes increasingly difficult, though, to play up against Tiamat, because Paul has hit that 4-item power spike, the one that he really needs, has percent pen now, and that's going to make him do that much more damage towards these frontliners. He's got tons of CDR, so he can just spam his poke. The Warriors just don't have the poke to contest with this Tiamat, and that's what makes her hard to deal with, is that her poke is great as well.
So the Oni Fury quickly taken down by the Titans. The Oni Warriors were close. I had wondered if they would overextend or extend and maybe look for a fight, but I think that's smart. You just see what's going on, and then you back away. But 9,000 gold and 11,000 XP after that Fury is secured. And so you're 22 minutes in, aggro. There's still a lot of towers remaining on the map. You have to imagine the next big play for this Titans team is get some more coverage and look towards the FG. You favor them in about every fight they could possibly take right now.
Exactly. I'm a little surprised the Titans are so slow to reset here, because this Oni Fury isn't going to do a whole lot for them anymore. They needed to instantly go towards reset right after Oni Fury, go to fire, and try and use the pressure of these Oni waves to generate an opportunity for you around this Fire Giant or the Pyromancer. But they decide, even though they're up 9,000 gold, that they'd rather continue to play a little bit of a slower pace and farm it out. And I'm a little surprised at that. I mean, there's a lot of gold on the map.
There is
here for the Warriors. And the best way to access that gold is by going to Fire Giant, snagging that for yourself, and setting yourself up to extend this lead to an insurmountable number. It's close to insurmountable, but not there yet. And if the Warriors are allowed to hang around, then it's going to get easy.
There's always a chance. We've seen some big turnarounds in the history of the SPL. Nika uses his beads here on right. It's a little gold infusion for the Tartarus Titans, who just secured the Pyromancer as well. Now layers. He'll blink forward on Nika, force the jump on out. It's a grouping from the Titans around this tier 2. At some point, you can head on back towards this Fire Giant and maybe start things up there. I wonder if we'll see at any point Cyclone Spin and his ultimate force vote or someone to that side of the map, because you can rejoin the fight so quickly, but you'd rather Cyclone Spin be here from the start. And start the Fire Giant has Neoma half HP outside of the FG ring. Kind of a soft reset on the objective now by the Tartarus Titans. The Oni Warriors extend forward. It's getting low though. Cyclone Spin still found some damage. It's a nice strike from Dardaz, and the apple is there. 2 in the ultimate from Neoma, and the Scarab's Blessing onto himself, and that's opened up the door for Paul to jump on it. And Cubo Fred is the first to turn around to kill now for the Oni Warriors. Layers goes down. Benji controlling so much of this frontline space.
And it's only one, but that's still a 1-for-1 in favor of the Warriors, because it's not worse. It certainly could have been after how that fight started, but a really good ultimate from Neil and Nika. Those two play nicely with those ultimates, and they keep Aurora uncomfortable in that fight. It's one way to kind of deal with that Kepri is to actually bring the fight to him, so that he has to be more worried about himself than his teammates, can't ult anybody else, buys himself time, survives that dive, but it makes it so that Layers will end up dying on his dive instead of surviving. So I like that play from the Warriors, and the fact that they were even in the team fight recap in damage, went down 10,000 gold, bodes nothing but good news for the Chaos side.
The next pivot, though, could come in the intangibles as far as the kills go. Vote had to use both of his actives in that fight, so you're a minute and a half on the beads, 113 seconds on the Aegis. So if the Titans re-pick up this Fire Giant, Vote will be in a worse off spot than he was. Both of the carries for the Titans have their actives. Felt like there's been no pressure on the Aegis or the beads onto Paul so far this game. Paul has played it well as far as backing away and then jumping in. And so Paul will have both of the actives in it as well. A couple Spectral Armors picked up for the front lines of the Titans, so if it was difficult to kill them before, it sure is now, especially if your Vote, who I've mentioned, does not have those actives. Fire Giant restarted by the Tartarus Titans. Cyclone spin well on the back, finding some damage in there. And look at the abduct into burst damage from Paul. Cubo Fred looking for the team app, but he won't find it. Layers leaps on out as the apple is connected from Dardaz onto the jungler. Up in the air is Vote. Damage going on to the FG, but it's been reset. Now it's a dash away from Cubo Fred. Benji silenced and stunned in place. And Aurora and the Titans, the team may be looking worse for wear.
Good again from the Warriors. They keep the back line at bay. They don't end up hard diving. They just make sure that they're there to peel for layers. And Paul and Cyclone don't seem interested in diving in following up on this CC and damage coming from Layers and Benji. Aurora that time able to free cast a little bit more, but still ate a good amount of poke damage. Loved the engage there from the Titans. I thought the pull on the Nika when Nika didn't have beads was big.
Yep.
But check out the item there for Nika. It's a Mail of Renewal. So he gets more protections as he gets hit. And then as he hits that 5-stack of arc, he gets a big burst heal. And there is no anti-heal on the other side for the Tartarus Titans, as there shouldn't be. But that means that Nika is getting maximum value out of this Mail of Renewal, making it look pretty good.
So it's not quite like 8-0 raid boss Nika on the Cerberus from yesterday, but still at a point where a lot of damage is going to get soaked up and then healed up from Nika, who continues to be so pivotal for the success of this Oni Warriors team. Even in a loss yesterday to a very good Bolts team, Nika was a lot of the driving force. So once again, we'll dance around the FG. It's been started by the Titans. And once again, Paul and Cyclone's been playing safe in the back, but this time it's been completed. The Oni Warriors tried their best to steal it, but their best was not enough. Apple is out from Dardaz, and it's on to Cyclone Spin, who has to Aegis it away. Neomod desperately trying to get the stun onto Paul, and he does, but the beads were still there, and Layers now has the credence and the freedom to find the back line. Cyclone gets one, and it's Layers who gets the other.
Oni Warriors just ripped apart at the seams by the Tartarus Titans, and Layers doesn't use his blink, he doesn't use his beads, he just ults in and gets to town on this Osiris, chopping his way through the Warriors. And that was a risky call from the Titans to finish that fire, but the upside was high. They knew they were going to win the team fight afterwards, and now they're looking for the end.
Cubo, Fred, and Nika, the last line of defense, but it's a weak defense. The Titans group up as 5. Everyone has got FG here. Layers will add another 5, 1, and 6, and Paul will be on a killing spree. The Titans took a minute, danced a couple times around the FG, but it was patience, and the Titans will take game 1 apiece.
Listen, sometimes you just got to flip the coin and hope that it works out, and that time it did, but I think that the Warriors did some good things down by a lot. If they weren't down 10,000, that game becomes a lot closer. It was just that they waited too long to start doing those positive things. And the Titans didn't allow them to group up and start making these plays where their team fight was very strong until it was already too late. So that was smart from the Titans.
Layers is doing his best UGA and Kirby Smart impression in this one. I know you're not a big college football guy, but no. UGA, they keep chopping. That's our thing. Keep chopping wood.
Isn't that the Seminoles, though? Isn't that Florida State? Didn't they lose to a horrible team?
No, but UGA keep they're working. They're like lumberjacks. They're chopping the wood. They're out there.
Bulldogs can't chop wood.
Oh, we'll be back after this break. Go Ducks.
They're dogs. They don't have thumbs. They can't. They've just got paws.
Oh, we're not going to a break. Okay.
God, go to break, Yithins. What are you waiting for? It's supposed to fade to black as I'm doing the bit. You know?
Right. There we go.
I gave up dabbing for Lynn.
Cool. No more dabbing for Final. He looked at me and said, I'm going to be on that stage next year. I'm going to become a world champion.
as you saw highlighted by our lovely video there, if you want to get any of your SPL merchandise, you can go over to shop.smiteproleague.com and pick up anything that you may be looking for. You want a t-shirt to represent your favorite team, you want a jersey to represent your team, or any of the cool custom merch that comes with some of those teams between sleeves. There's onesies, there's shorts, other kinds of t-shirts, all kinds of things available for you at shop.smiteproleague.com. And thanks to our apparel sponsor Insight for bringing that to us. And for game number 1 now in the books, with the Tartarus Titans coming up big, it took them a little while to get there, but it felt like from minute number 1, Mifflin, that was all the Tartarus Titans control.
Yeah, like a slow burn almost. I felt like I was watching Shark Week, right? Like, the Sharks are going to win. We know they're going to get whatever fish they're aiming for, but it took a little bit. We built some suspense throughout the entire duration of it, but at the end of the day, I don't think anyone was questioning what the outcome was going to be. The Tartarus Titans hold firm control of neutral objectives, team fights. I mean, everywhere on the map, it felt like they were playing proactively and properly. KDs look good for everyone involved, and the Oni Warriors, I don't think, played poorly. I don't think they came in with a bad plan. It's just that they didn't quite stack up this time.
Just a very slow and methodical play from the Tartarus Titans. I mean, at one point, I looked down a few minutes in, we're 500,000 gold up. Next thing I know, I look up at 20 minutes and are 10,000 gold ahead, and it's not like they had taken the entire map away. It's not like all the towers have been stripped. It was just one objective after another, just winning out these small little skirmishes, layers. I had like 3-4 kills by that 10-15 minute mark, and for an Osiris, that's just a dream for it.
Yeah, Layers is pretty good, by the way. I mean, he just like 1v1 vote pretty easily. I mean, it only feels confident enough to do that because of the composition that the Tartarus Titans have. Aurora, like 3 feet behind him, says, hey, do whatever you want. I got Scarab's Blessing. It's not an issue. I feel like this game really could come down to, and I'm sure the Oni Warriors might echo this, P's and B's diff a little bit here. It just felt like the composition that the Tartarus Titans were bringing dealt with handily every single threat that the Oni Warriors were able to generate, and it's reflected in the slash lines. Only 2 deaths for the Tartarus Titans, and the 2 people that died also had like a 5 KD and a 4 KD. Like, you got to be able to bring a little bit more here from the Oni Warriors. I think if they had a slightly more AoE or maybe a more meta mage out of mid, maybe that could have gone a little bit better for them, but I don't feel like I saw enough from Cubo Fred on the Circuit. Very low damage numbers there, only around 5,000. Neomos struggled to get the ball rolling. 3K on Cabrakan. Not the best look. I know, Neomos playing support. He's not supposed to have that much damage, but when you're playing a god like Cabrakan, I mean, you're essentially just another assassin.
Every single kill on the board for the Tartarus Titans were on the carries, too. The solo laner didn't have a kill. The support didn't have a kill, but they did have plenty of assists to it, and it just felt like Paul never really felt that threatened on this Tiamat, and I'm still blown away by the fact that he's now gotten to play 5 Tiamat games in a row since the playoffs, including that final set of the playoffs. Just got to take him off this god. He is too comfortable sitting perfectly capable of either being in the back line and firing off range damage, or jumping in the face of the enemy and doing all the melee damage possible out there. Somebody's got to take this Tiamat away from him.
It's a catch-20, J-Mac. I mean, Aggro kind of broke it down pretty well at the 2-minute mark, said, all right, so Paul's gonna frag you, but he's going to frag you harder on Tiamat. So it doesn't really matter what you do. He's going to be able to pop off either way. That's the mechanical prowess that this guy brings, but I'm of like mind with you, man. If he's going to have the best god in the game, essentially, inside of Tiamat given to him every single time, I don't think any of us are allowed to be surprised when the Tartarus Titans look as good as they do.
Well, let's see if the Oni Warriors take it away, or will the Tartarus Titans be able to grab another Tiamat play? We'll see here in picks and bans for game number 1. That is a pretty nice shirt. Yeah. I think any Bob Ross shirt that you can have out there is a good one.
Yeah, buy the Bob Ross Smite skin for Sylvanas at everybody.
Are you even still able to buy that one, actually?
If you are, buy it. If you aren't, I'm sorry.
If you missed out on your opportunity, well, sorry you missed out on a good skin. It is definitely one of the better skins out there for it. A good old classic Bob Ross Sylvanas. I mean, he's standing on top of the tree. It's a happy Grover too, a big smile painted on the tree's face. But for the picks and bans, it's Kuzenbo once again taken away by the Titans. Not going to give that one over to Neil Ma. And an immediate response by the Oni Warriors. They're going to strip the Khepri away from Aurora. Maybe a little too good that game on that god.
Yeah, Warriors in the first pick position as well this time around. They might be able to strip away the Tiamat if that makes its way through the entirety of the ban phase here. Terra the second overall ban from the Tartarus Titans. And I'm excited to see how the Oni Warriors kind of prioritize their picks here. We've seen from the Warriors in the past that they really do like going towards this Khepri in the first slot, but considering they're the ones to ban it this time, you got to think they're fishing for something else. Maybe it is that Tiamat, maybe they're going for something like Spicy out of the Hunter role if they want to go towards the Artemis or something along those lines. Maybe put Vote on his favorite pick inside of the Rom. The field is open here.
We'll see where they grab their first pick, but they still have one more ban to go for the Titans. Kuzenbo Terra on the other side. It's highlighted the Khepri, a Hell, and a Yemoja. So Tiamat is still open. Now the kind of question comes to the Titans is, do they want to ban it because do they think that the Oni Warriors will grab it? You kind of highlighted in the last set that Dardaz may not really necessarily go towards this pick, more towards the Afros, the Heras, even
I was
the
wrong.
Discordia.
Don't bring it up.
And the Discordia.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you definitely, you may not have said it, but it definitely got picked for it. Erlang Shen is the first selection on the Oni Warrior side. First pick Erlang, how do you kind of feel about that with this RDO as the final ban for the Titans?
I mean, Erlang Shen operates twofold. We know that Cuvo Fred is very comfortable with this pick. He can dominate early games if he hits the ground running, and we know that Layers is also a fan of this pick as well. He goes towards it just about whenever it's available to him. So, not only is it a good first pick, but it acts as a pretty nice ban as well. Tartarus Titans, I think, are saying, all right, Oni Warriors, if you've got a Tiamat, you got to take it here, because if they don't, it's pretty clear to me that the Tartarus Titans are very likely to take it with their third pick selection. But Cerberus and Rom are going to be the top two for the Chaos team this side around, and that's a pretty good top two. I mean, Cerberus has decent flex potential if you do want to. Could head over to the support role, more than likely headed over into solo. Rom is a pick that has been serving Vote incredibly well. That's the adaptation that we saw from the Olympus Bolts in the last Oni Warrior set was, let's get Vote off this Rom, let's take it for ourselves, and it looked pretty good there. Seems like the Titans taking a play from their book.
Does not seem like the Oni Warriors care about Tiamat. Sobek and Heimdall are the next two gods locked in. A little bit of a trade there for the solo laners. Yeah, Sobek on the other side of the map, but it's going to be a Tiamat one more time for the Tartarus Titans. Mid laner Paul gets now 5 Tiamat games in a row. Rom stripped away from both this time around. It happened to him in the Bolts matchup where he got a nice game one. And the team said, you know what, maybe that game one was a little too good. We'll take that one for ourselves. And as we jump in the second phase of bans, the Morrigan and Aphrodite banned away by the Titans. Oni Warriors, they want to take a little bit more away from Layers here. This time they'll adapt themselves from game number one. Not just the Camazots, but also an Osiris banned away.
Morgan Le Fay, Persephone, Raijin, Merlin, all still available. I mean, if we're talking about Dardaz in particular, the Hera still out there as well. So I'm very curious to see how he chooses to go towards, or what he chooses to go towards with his selection. Odin getting locked in here for the Tartarus Titans tells me that it's pretty likely that we see Dardaz try and pick something that can deal with that Ring of Spears, right? You probably don't want to lock in a Hera against Odin. I mean, he's just going to lock you down very early on, especially considering last time we saw Odin out of support role, he was kind of inside of mid the entirety of the game. It's just such an interesting picks bans. Every time I watch the Warriors, I'm not sure if Dardaz just straight up hates what every other mid laner is playing. Like, this guy will not play the Merlins, the Raijins. He doesn't like the Tiamat, clearly. I mean, he was given multiple opportunities to take it in this match specifically. It's curious, man. The Oni Warriors, it feels like, sure, you're bringing flavor picks. You're bringing something that people don't have experience playing against, or not a ton of experience, to be sure. But there's a reason the meta picks are the meta picks. They're just good.
There's a reason that they work. I mean, they bring victories for your team. They bring wins. You were kind of questioning if you want to go with a Hera against an Odin. The Oni Warriors, they feel comfortable doing so. They're looking, and not just looking, they selected Hera and a Fenrir. Arachne being hovered, though I don't think we'll see the Arachne actually locked in here for the Tartarus Titans. Maybe not the safest selection out of all them. A nice level 5 style of gameplay for the Arachne, but it will go back to the Gilgamesh, who, after the recent nerfs in this 8.8, we haven't seen him really looked at all by any team. So a 10-pick Gilgamesh here, maybe a little curious.
Yeah, we haven't seen him get picked too much because of the direct Gilgamesh nerfs, but the itemization that Gilgamesh generally goes towards is still incredibly strong. It still synergizes very well. I mean, Blackthorn Hammer, as it stands, giving you so much HP as an infusion, is only going to make the Sun Scimitar that much stronger. I think Gilgamesh still acts as a great facilitator and engage tool inside of the team fight, so I am not concerned with this Tartarus Titans draft, and why would I be? You got Paul on Tiamat. I mean, I could stop the evaluation there. That's how good he is at this pick. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Oni Warriors bring a composition that screams Oni Warriors. They're the only ones playing these picks. We'll see if they can perform on it.
I mean, you got Hera, Fenrir as the last two selections going up against an Odin. And that, to me, is kind of a question mark for the Hera. No mobility. You get locked inside of a cage. Sure, you've got Bubble Buddy Argus there with you, but is Argus enough to take an Odin, Gilgamesh, or a Cerberus away from you at that point? Is that enough safety for a Hera?
Yeah, I'd say so. The Hera is going to feel all right insofar as Odin isn't able to close gap consistently, right? Like, that's going to be a tough one to deal with. Once Ring of Spears is dropped around this Hera, it's going to be tough to escape these situations. But Fenrir creating space, Erlang Shen Sobek, I mean, it's a steel wall front line. If the Oni Warriors are able to hit the ground running and choose the fights, if they're the ones being the aggressors, this Hera should be able to succeed on their own. But if the Tartarus Titans are given that luxury, I mean, it's not just Cerberus running you down. It's not just Odin. It's Gilgamesh, even Ram from the sky, going to be able to rain arrows on you from halfway across the map. Tiamat, when Paul's playing it, looks like a nigh unstoppable war god, just jumping into the front line and doing whatever he wants. If the Tartarus Titans at any point this game establish like a 3,000 gold lead, I think it's going to be very hard for the Oni Warriors to make a comeback.
And they had a hard time in game number 1, even with just only a few kills going early for the Tartarus Titans. In a matter of 20 minutes, they were able to bring up a 10,000 gold lead, and then from there, it's just 8 minutes later, they're able to close the game out. That sounds like a long time, but as you kind of highlighted at the very start, it was a very slow, methodical burn coming from the Tartarus Titans, and they're looking poised to potentially take game 2 with a similar draft from that first game, especially getting Paul back on the Tiamat. He's got it for 5 games in a row. Can he get another win on the board for it this time around? That's going to be up to them to decide, and it's up to our casters to show or tell us exactly what happens.
All I know is there's a few picks on the Oni Warriors now that need to show up. This Erlang Shen gets prioritized. The Sobek gets prioritized. The Heimdall gets prioritized. All over the Tiamat once again for Paul. The Tartarus Titans draft similar to what they want to do here, what they wanted to do in game 1 here in game 2. Dardaz, to be fair to him.
To be fair.
To be fair. No, we only got 2. Okay. Dardaz, to be fair, did look good on this Hera yesterday.
Yep.
But didn't quite have the same issues on the enemy team.
Yeah, here's the thing about that though, Dave. Did he play Hera against Tiamat yesterday?
No.
Did he play it against Gilgamesh?
No.
How about Odin?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, no, that doesn't sound good to me. I mean, that's just... I just don't want to pick Hera against Odin, ever. And then Gilgamesh is just arguably better Odin cage up against Hera. Like, very surprised to see that's the direction. You know, game 1, if you're gonna pick Hera and Discordia this set, I would have much rather had Discordia against this comp and Hera against comp game 1.
Right.
So I'm confused as to how it ended up going this way.
So we gotta throw a lifeline to the Warriors. Clearly, we're thinking the Titans won in picks and bans at least. Play on field.
Yeah.
A totally different animal. The Oni Warriors, against already one of the top teams in the league in the Olympus Bolts, showed up and played well. How does this comp that the Oni Warriors have beat what the Titans have?
You have to have Nika be a really solid initiator on this Sobek, and him and Neil have to continually find people out of position and punish them for it. There's a lot of crowd control for the Warriors, and I'm always a fan of heavy CC comps. All it takes is one Titans member to blow their beads. Players doesn't even have beads. That should be an opportunity to punish.
Neomod jumps in, gets the stun, but this is always what's going to happen. Cyclone Spin is going to send some damage right on back. Aurora and Odin. So Odin support's been a conversation that has always had the potential to be had. It's been Odin solo a lot, but Warrior support is always going to carry some extra damage. You're going up against a Fenrir, so the tug of war in this lane should be fun to watch, but Aurora on the Odin, I think, carries a little extra weight.
He's definitely made it look some of the best. Rongu was the last one to do it earlier today, and he looked awfully good on it, so Odin definitely just a strong god worth taking in any frontline role, and Roar taking it to this lane where he's going to be able to to actually use some of that presence, whereas in solo lane right now, so dominated by Guardians and by Vamp Shroud and their itemization that I suppose that the thinking is that they won't get enough pressure out of this Odin to really make it worth the farm that it's getting, whereas Cerberus can actually use that farm a little bit more effectively. So even if Aurora won't be, 2/3 healthing people off of a bird bomb like we've come to expect from Odin, he'll still be able to make an impact.
Layers on the Gilgamesh, despite some recent Gilgamesh changes. The utility that it brings to this matchup, I think, strong for Layers. Kivo Fred on the year-long Shen on the flip side of the jungle has been an interesting, I think, journey. We've seen some early games where this pick looks great. But I got to admit, it feels like aggro. A handful of times I've seen this pick just sort of fall off the earth when the game goes on. And I think in Kivo Fred and Neilma's case, we want to loop Neilma in. Maybe some of the same things that plague Dardaz could make it difficult for Kivo and Neilma to engage this game.
Absolutely. I mean, Erlong has to get the ball rolling a little bit earlier than some other junglers because he's so difficult to pilot in the 5-on-5s. Once you start 5-on-5ing with Erlong, your 72 transformation starts getting interrupted all the time. Everyone's got beads. They peel really well. You've got no CC immunity. Your ultimate doesn't give you enough mitigation, all that kind of stuff.
Always going to see this. You're always going to see Neilma jump in, get Cyclone Spin low. But the reply every single time has been Aurora jumping back in. Level 5 for Neilma right on time. Layers will get the execute with the winds of Shamash. And now it's a cage from Aurora. And what's Kivo Fred going to do? He's stuck in place. Layers with a double kill. The comp working as intended. The Titans off to a 2-kill lead.
Wow, cage on cage seems pretty good to me, Dave. And Erlong seems to have literally no options whenever that happens. Just a bad decision from Kivo. I think you got to let Neil pay for his sins in that moment and let him go, because getting Layers 1 kill sucks, first blood, whatever, but it's just a support. It's fine. Now it's, we got the double kill to start the game off, and I died, and now I'm going to be pretty significantly behind in experience and in gold. And Layers is off to a really good start on this Gilgamesh, who probably won't feel the nerf too much if he's really fed.
Man, I'm thinking about how bad, double cage feels in general.
Yeah.
And then we add in Paul into that conversation with the Tiamat. I mean, anyone who's locked in there is just going to take a big old burst of damage from Paul. And that's a good magnifying glass on how Cyclone Spin can take advantage of that. That your snipes on certain targets, depending on who's locked in there, become so much easier to confirm. You're corralling whoever you want, it feels like, if the Tartarus Titans are able to find those targets. And I think what could be tough aggro, I mean, if we talk about how the Oni Warriors and the way that they win this game is maybe through Nika being a strong initiator and Kivo Fred being the same. Nika's over in the solo lane. And normally the solo laners don't really join this game for a little while. So maybe expected that the early game has started off the way it has.
Dave, I think we probably should have announced this earlier, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and do it now.
Okay, great.
This is officially now a pay-per-view, and this is Hell in a Cell 2021. That's what this is now.
All right, Hell in a Cell. I don't know. How do WWE announcers do it?
Scream.
Well, I'm good at that.
Yeah, just get a lot of "Bah, God!" and that
Bang!
Kind of
No, that's basketball.
Yeah, that's bad. We're talking Mike Green there.
Yeah, but as God is my witness, he's broken in half. That's I gotta find one spot in this game to hit one of those, and I'll do my best. But it's gonna come when you least expect.
There's the Mankind and Undertaker copy
it's
pasta.
the copy pasta.
That's a Hell in a Cell reference, right? We might be able to.
That's right. Back in. There's one dude on Reddit, I think, that starts off his comments, and then by the end of the comment, it's back in 1998 when Mankind threw the Undertaker off Hell in a... No, maybe it was Mankind being thrown off. I don't know. I'm obviously
I don't remember.
Little illiterate when it comes to the specific copy pasta. How about this? A 1v1 over in the duo lane. Vote had done more damage. Cyclone Spin with all 3 snipes connecting. We'll send it right on back. Now Neilma rotates in, makes Cyclone pay for the overextension. This is a good numbered fight for the Oni Warriors. An early advantage for the Oni Warriors. Gives them an advantage later on in the fight, and the kills are even.
Love that play from Vote, playing aggressive, knowing that he's got numbers on the way and not great ward coverage from the Titans on this left-hand side makes them think that that fight is going to stay advantageous for them, when in actuality it was Vote who was doing the baiting all along and perfectly calculating his health bar, by the way, knowing that he can take all 3 snipes and still survives. Easy double kill there for the Warriors. And notably, it isn't a double kill for one person. It's spread a little bit. One for Fred, one for Neil. And I think that's best case scenario because they both get a little bit of an extra infusion.
And I did wonder, and we're getting kind of specific into item talk here. Blackthorn Hammer's been prioritized pretty heavily here recently. But feels like Fenrir support specifically still likes this sledge as a first overall item. Gives Neilma a little bit of that extra damage, bruiseriness earlier in the game. And so despite Blackthorn being favored right now by some junglers and even solo lane here and there, still sledge for Neil first.
Blackthorn's more of the bridge sort of, I just need cheap stats, and I'm not really that concerned about how effective those cheap stats are. The sledge is much more focused on, I'm going to be in there, and I want some defense in order to survive that, but I still want to deal a little bit of damage, and sledge a little bit better in that regard.
So strong for Neilma. Now, and I think that's kind of the avenue we discussed. Look, the Titans have this clear game plan, but in the moment of an overplay, that's where or an outplay, that's where the Oni Warriors can find their advantage. Luckily for the Titans, that hasn't resulted in a big swing, gold or XP-wise. Still a gold lead, still an XP lead in the first 9-10 minutes of the game. Mifflin on the desk did kind of mention, he said, look, if this Titans team, you're getting into that 3,000-4,000 gold area, 12 to 15 minutes in, that's where his confidence lies as far as the Titans being able to close this one out. So, with that being said, this first Gold Fury, always important anyway, but keeping the Titans in check in this early game for the Oni Warriors are going to have to show up. They're able to get both Oracles. So this one, at least for the duration of the Oracles, won't get snuck away.
And it's also important in that last play that Dardaz is able to stick with that Hera as well and rotate over, out-rotate Paul.
Yep.
And so you're not nearly as behind. You get 2 assists. You end up being in a pretty decent spot. Still down about 200 gold in net worth department, but active on the map. And that's going to be key for Dardaz, is to find these outnumbered fights, because I still feel like, Dave, whenever we get down to it, 5-on-5, down to brass tacks. This isn't the Royal Rumble. We're talking Hell in a Cell.
That's right.
And that's still going to happen to the Warriors eventually. Now, Phantom should come through for the Oni Warriors, but that's going to be a little bit still.
At some point, right. And we're still level 8 for Neil, who would be the priority on picking that one up. So Darda is opting for a similar build here, Aggro, and so is Paul. And it seemed to work out. And maybe the pacing of the game similar enough to how things were in Game 1 that both of the builds still make sense, where Paul was absolutely swinging. It was Soul Reaver into Obshard, if I'm remembering correctly, for Paul in the next 2 item slots.
Yep.
Don't imagine you deviate too much from that, especially when you've been able to chill and farm up and the game's going all right for you.
Yeah, I think that double kill over there for the Warriors put the brakes on a bit for the Titans. They go, all right. They're not gonna, we're not gonna be able to do whatever we want on the map. Let's just play for the exact same style that we did last game, which is wait until we 5-on-5, and then this Fenrir becomes a lot worse, and this Erlong Shen becomes a lot worse, and we just start dominating with our double cage. And I think that the Titans are right on that assessment. I think if I'm the Warriors, I'm looking for outnumbered fights still. I'm looking to gain superior ward vision in the jungle and try and use that to spring some traps on the Titans.
Well, it feels good is in the last couple of 1v1 trades, it feels like Vote's just done more damage to Cyclone Spin, except for Cyclone Spin hitting the snipes onto to Vote there by the end of it. That's probably few and far between. I don't know how much of an advantage you're going to be able to leverage there. Maybe instead you got to send Odin right around the backside of the fight. And Aurora will say, no, thank you. I'll walk right back into lane. But this Heimdall's always the threat, especially when it's Vote. We talk so much about Nika for this Oni Warriors team and how, it's just such a concrete, solid front line, an anchor, if you will, for this Oni Warriors team. Feels like Vote as well is in less concrete, more damagey type of a scenario where Vote has this sneaky ability to show up and just go off in these types of games.
Poor Vote's just gotten the treatment all year long. That he's just been, it's been purple pressure is the name of the game for opposing teams. It's diving Vote underneath his tier 1 as early as possible. Eliminating him as a win condition has been a clear strategy for a lot of teams up against the Warriors. And the Warriors have not done a great job of making sure that they punish elsewhere on the map when those things happen. And so as a result, Vote has had some games that look like real stinkers. But overall, I think that he's played really, really well this year. I think that last play that sets up the 2 kills for the Warriors is really just a perfect play by Vote that sets it all up.
Here we go. This was the big moment for the Tartarus Titans to extend their lead early in this game, and it's only Neoma who is immediately here, and the Titans will secure the Gold Fury, and that's great investment from Aurora. We'll drop the cage down. Nobody else is going to get in melee range, and Vote can't auto-attack it down. You got to go through those walls first. So nice little gold spike, little XP spike to the Titans.
Weighted coin flip there from the Titans is the way I'd put that. You know, it's not guaranteed. They don't have good secure, but they're favored. It's only one person jumping in, and it's Neoma with a brutalized tick. So, like the calculated risk there by the Titans gets them a little bit of a lead. Good response though from the Warriors. Typical as typical gets. One team gets gold, the other gets pyro.
So the gold lead extends a little bit further for the Tartarus Titans. Cyclone Spin will do his best to stay healthy, happy, and alive here in this lane up against Vote. Ward coverage extends a little bit further out for Cyclone Spin this time, beneath the Fury pit there. So if there are 1v1s to be had, Cyclone Spin will know, truthfully, that it's a 1v1. If we can go back to Vote, I am curious. Totally not any sort of analysis. I want to know what skin he's rocking with.
This is the new Heimdall skin.
Okay, good, because I didn't recognize it. It's
yeah.
sweet.
It's like he's just hot. That's the thing. Like, what if we did
Heimdall?
Heimdall?
Just hot.
I can picture the pitch right now. What if we just took Heimdall and made him hot?
Look at the icon next to Vote. You're not. Look at the piercing blue eyes that he's got there.
Yeah, I mean, that's some people's
Idris
aesthetic, for
Elba
sure.
plays him in the Marvel movies.
You'll never hear me say a bad word about Idris Elba. That's never going to come out of my mouth. But no, he's like he's like a clubbing, modern
Right.
sort of guy.
Like avocado toast in the morning, maybe a little bit out of that age range.
Out of that age range. He's a little bit older, but yeah, I'm not going to go with where I was going.
Right, the older dude in the club still. Right, I get it. Vote playing
Ballin'
the Heimdall skin.
and not on a budget for the
Right, not on a budget. And that's the important part of this one. Aurora gets jumped on and then jumped on again by Neoma here. Had his cage, and so dangerous jump in from Neoma.
That, though, is a great skin idea. Ballin' on a budget. And it's like every time you buy an item, they go, oh, this is how much?
So who would get?
I can't afford this.
What is it, like a millennial someone?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh,
who's one of the
this
younger
plus student loans?
Like millennial Scylla or something like
yeah,
that.
or Jing Wei or something like
Wei,
that.
right.
Yeah,
Oh,
that would be really funny. But you know, a lot of people probably play Smite for the escape. They really want to be thinking about their student loans as they're playing. I know. I don't.
You're on a killing spree. You go back by a massive power spike. God, student loans, and then you have a moment.
Yeah,
oh,
you're like,
right.
oh my God, I forgot to pay them this month. Like, I'm hosed.
Yeah, you're right. All right, so not good.
No, it's good actually.
No, it is good, but
thank you.
Not good for the mental. No, I'm not going to go back and forth with you. I think it's a good idea that won't get implemented for important reasons.
Sure.
Yes, we want to give people an escape. Right now, the Oni Warriors have found an escape from the early onslaught of the Tartarus Titans. The game is slowed down just a little bit. There's no Pyro to secure. There is also no Oni Fury to secure. There is a Tier 1 tower to dive, though, and Aurora thinking he might want to take part. Instead, Paul is going to send some damage in. Layers, who has slowed down since that early double kill, is here as well. And the soft defense from the Warriors pay off.
Not a lot of early pressure on this mid lane tower, but Dardaz's early rotations, and Tiamat just tends to get these little poke damage on the towers with the lizards. You'll see Paul use that cooldown every time it's up. Just put it in the lane, and it's moments like this where Dardaz has to shade right in order to help here. These minions are going to deal damage.
Fight breaks out.
Nice
Aurora
cage.
able to cage in Nika. Now Nika lurking in the waters, but watch out for Paul lurking in the back line. Winds of Shamash onto Nika as well. A whole lot invested onto this Sobek. Survivability high enough that its back camp's taken away. Nika was even able to get his own blue buff there. And so some investment. Tartarus Titans trying to find the kills, but a tough target to lock down.
Yeah, it turns out that percent protections is a good stat to have as a front line.
Yeah, I can't imagine it'd be bad.
And that's what Sobek has whenever he lurks in the waters. He gets extra protections based on its percentage.
And he lurks.
And he's lurking. No doubt about that one. And that's really the difference for Nika. Benji tries to time the ultimate for as soon as Nika comes out. Is a little bit early, but I think that was his only opportunity in order to press it and actually have it land. So he was probably hoping for damage more so than CC.
Yep.
Nika had beads anyways, but Pridwin Shield also turns out to be pretty good when you got a lot of protections.
Here's a Sobek buff because he clearly needs one.
No.
When he's lurking in the waters, he goes under player-made walls.
No.
No? Okay, never mind. That's right up there in bad ideas with balling on a budget skins.
That's a good idea.
In Smite. Nope. I don't hear nothing of it. But I admire the creativity, aggro. That's good on you. And the creativity from the Titans to kill off Nika there. It's obviously not your ideal target, you know, as far as health goes. I mean, if you can get Dardaz, Cubo Fred, hell, even Neil or Vote in there, you're probably going to have a bit of an easier time. Pyromancer's going to be up on one side of the map. The Oni Fury is going to be up on the other. So, if one team or the other doesn't necessarily feel comfortable with the fight, you do have the opportunity to trade out these objectives. But as the game has slowed down, aggro, we have reached those power spike items from Paul. The Soul Reaver is there. The percent pen portion of the Ob Shard has connected here on this Tiamat. A 1-level lead over Dardaz, who does have Ob Shard as well. So the Hera will hit, but Paul's going to be hitting as well.
Definitely a little bit harder even because he's got that extra 2/3 of an item.
Engage from Benji to Neoma in, and then immediately out. Nika alone in the back line with everyone from the Tartarus Titans. Lurks and then unlurks, shows himself, but with half of his HP missing. Big engage from Layers, who then gets pulled right on back. And then the cage connects as well. This is perfect scenario for the Tartarus Titans, and they're making the Oni Warriors pay for grouping. A couple kills have already been connected. Cubo, Fred will be burned on down. Everyone from the Titans getting involved. 3 members from the Oni Warriors, soon to be 4, soon to be 5.
Dardaz, no beads, will get stunned, but no one else here. It's just Aurora on the solo mission because Mika
maybe 4
has kindly pulled the rest of the team away. Just too simple for the Titans with all of their AoE control. The Warriors get out of the first cage, which was very good from Layers, and directly into the waiting arms of Aurora, who drops the cage right afterwards. Who cares about this Oni Fury? Fire Giant is a call for the Titans, and that fight just goes instantly from difficult to impossible for the Warriors as soon as those initiations from Nika in particular doesn't find anything. I mean, he blink flux, splits the uprights, doesn't find anyone from the Titans, doesn't put any pressure on any sets of relics, and then has to ult out as just a mobility tool to make sure he doesn't get locked down. And then the Warriors are, of course, going to pull up in order to help their solo laner, who's overextended. And as soon as those two intersect, as soon as Nika retreating and the backline stepping up to help him intersect, that's when Layers went in. Really good team fight timing there from Layers.
Man, the Titans are going to get absolutely everything. They're going to get the Fire Giant. They'll send 4 to the Oni Fury, which they'll secure. And then they also have Layers over on the Pyromancer. So that goes for them. Take a look at the left side of your screen there. 1,600 gold at least for the Tartarus Titans, up to about 2,500 for Cyclone Spin, who will be able to finish off that item and then some. So we've reached 1 second to midnight here, it feels like, for the Oni Warriors in this game. As I mentioned earlier, Mifflin kind of set the 3,000 to 4,000 gold lead earlier in the game. We're at about 9,000 ahead for the Titans now. And aggro, there's a whole lot of gold on the map still to be taken. A couple towers, expose those phoenixes. It's the old setup Fire Giant, as we like to call it. The Titans will be doing plenty of that.
Lots of gold left on the map now. 5,500 for the Titans to take by my math, which is usually not very good, but in this case, I'm pretty sure I'm right. And it's not gonna get it's not gonna be an easy defense because you've got the back line on the Titans finishing off their starter items, whereas you've got a level 16 Erlong Shen, a level 14 Fenrir trying to put pressure on those guys. They just can shrug that off pretty easily with how much stronger they're gonna be.
Yep, then why not? Why not do this? Why not send a few people left? You send a few people mid, maybe the Oni Warriors show some face, but I don't think you're feeling comfortable fighting underneath anything except for maybe your Titans at this point. And even then, not comfortable. It's been this play over and over. Aurora walks in, cages someone. This time it's Cubo Fred. Then the chain CC is there on the back end. One more cage is in, and Cyclone Spin with the ultimate finishes off the Oni Warriors jungler. There is a Ragnarok from Neomov, but it's brought Layers right back into engage range. Tier 2 tower gets taken down. Couple exposed phoenixes for the Titans.
That was a really smart play from Aurora, too. He body blocked Fred so he couldn't get the autos that he needed.
Wow, Cubo Fred is still 30 seconds away. If you lose this fight, Warriors, you lose the game. And the Tartarus Titans realize that Aurora wreaking havoc in the backline. A jump in from Benji as the mid lane Phoenix goes down. Vote gone before my eyes. As God is my witness, he is broken in half, and so is Neoma. The Oni Warriors lose just about everyone, and they'll lose the game here. The Titans roll over them in 22 minutes.
Yeah, this is, look, the Bolts played pretty well yesterday, but the Warriors were sticking with them. This is Phase 2 playoff champ, Tartarus Titans, maybe defending their title.
There are a few respawns from the Oni Warriors, but the juggling of the aggro could be strong here. from the Tartarus Titans. Nika drop kicked against the wall. Paul, killing spree, untouched. 305 for the mid laner, and you're playing with your food at this point. And play no further. Will the Titans or the Oni Warriors? Game 2 comes to a close. The Titans finish off the 2-0.
Now they just need the belt because they won Hell in a Cell 2021. You know,
Which is the one with the suitcase of cash.
That's Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank.
Yeah,
which is when, if you get that,
you can cash it in for a title opportunity
at
any
point.
time.
But it's so
Great
scummy,
writing.
right? Like a dude
100%.
is like gassed on the ground and you won.
For like all the battle royales, like they stole third partying from Money in the Bank when you think about it.
I mean, that is brutal. That's like somebody right now challenging the Oni Warriors to another matchup. They're cashing in money, although not a
their mental is shattered.
Mental is shattered.
When they're at their lowest point. Look, the Warriors, they came in. They clearly weren't ready for what the Titans were going to do. They came in with a strat of letting Paul take Tiamat, and I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when I have to say this, but like, stop.
We said that after the finals.
I know. We said that before the finals. We said it during the finals. We said it after the finals, and here I am, week 1 of phase 3, saying it again.
We did say that during the finals.
Stop letting this man play Tiamat.
Yeah, something's got to change here. Tiamat seems to be the answer. That stop
I need
was
the
like
big clock.
That stop was like distraught. I felt that emotionally in my bones, and the Oni Warriors felt it on the playing field here. Tartarus Titans take this one with ease, 2-0, and that'll finalize our final set of the day. We'll head to a break. The desk will take us home after.
I want to take off my jacket for this one. Oh, dude, this.
No, I know he was supposed to take you out last weekend, but he got busy.
Hey there, Smite fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are gonna take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're gonna need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's a lot of cores.
Plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true. I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible SMITE experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
Welcome back to the desk one final time here for the SMITE Pro League for the day. Thanks to our title sponsor, Alienware, one more time for providing not only our pros, but also here in the studio, all of the amazing setups available that these pro players have the opportunity to play on. If you want a chance to get your hands on some top-tier gaming quality gear, you can go over to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get your hands on those discount codes and take a look at some of the details of the products highlighted in that video if you want to take a look at it for yourself. One more time, smitegame.com/Alienware and code SMITEAW. Thank you one more time, Alienware, for sponsoring the SMITE Pro League here in season number 8. And a big congratulations to the Tartarus Titans for taking the 2-0 in our set today. Oni Warriors not able to fight back that time either, and a much swifter victory here in Game 2 for the Titans.
Quick one, not much to break down, right? The Tartarus Titans just control it. We called it during the P's and B's. If the Tartarus Titans, with the draft that they had, were able to establish a lead in the early game, I think I said like 3,000-ish gold, it'd be pretty hard to come back from that position, and it was pretty hard.
Hey, we get a nice classic throwback meme here, the old aggro sign that pops up, and what does it say there? Stop letting Paul play Tiamat, with a little angry face. Yeah, maybe some teams take a couple of lessons from that set. Maybe
Is that allowed, you think? Is aggro allowed to give people advice like that?
I mean,
that feels like collusion.
I mean, by us being on the desk giving thoughts about picks and bans, that's kind of us maybe giving some advice at the same time.
Okay, all right, carry on.
So, I don't know. Maybe just stop giving Paul Tiamat. Maybe that's just the lesson to be learned from now 2 sets in a row of play with him on that guy.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to let Paul play the best character in the game like every time. I mean, that's it. Why not just like make him a little bit worse? Like play something that's slightly less meta. You got to think some teams would benefit from that, but instead, it really feels like a lot of squads are still trying to figure out what exactly it is that they want to prioritize here after the 8.8 balance patch, and we're, as Aggro alluded to during that cast, going to see a wide shift in what the meta looks like once 8.9 drops this Tuesday, with Assassins coming back in a big way. So maybe that will shift some things up there as well, and we won't have to worry about the Paul Tiamat, but I doubt it. I think Paul Tiamat's going to be a consistent threat.
Even with the nerfs to this Gilgamesh that we saw with the 8.8 patch, layers still made him look pretty nice. Still made him look like a pretty decent god there, and maybe it's just the rest of the Titans kind of surging around him that kind of allows him to play that upfront style for it. But looking at the chart here, looking at the kills, deaths, the assists, I think it's the exact same 2 players who died in game number 1. Just 1 death for Layers, just 1 death for Cyclone, and nothing else around the board for it.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not sure.
What's up, man?
Even still looking at it, I
What's going on?
don't think even in this second game it was a death on the board for anybody outside of just those 2 players going through. There was definitely more kills spread across the board throughout 4 of them. But big shout-outs here to the Tartarus Titans, able to make some strong starts here in Phase 3 of the season.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we expect from them, right? I mean, it's the playoff champions, guys. They're favorites, rather, to win inside of this one. And the Oni Warriors, well, they don't shift up fate this time around. Instead, clean 2-0 and maybe a cleaner second game than the first one.
Well, let's talk to the playoff champion support himself. We've got Aurora standing by for our post-game interview. Aurora, congratulations on your win today. First question I got to ask for you. We asked at the end of Phase 3 playoffs what you were going to do to celebrate. You said eat ice cream. Did you actually eat that ice cream after your win?
Of course. You always got to get the ice cream. I ate ice cream all weekend that weekend. It was great. Yo, Jiffins also trolled you. He put game 1 up instead of game 2, and you were confused.
I was a little confused, but I mean, look, it all still came out the same. It was a win for you guys. You got some big kills, you got some big assists. Jithens is really out here trolling. If you're out there in chat, make sure to wish Jithens a happy birthday on Twitter. Make sure to pop it in the chat. Maybe troll him back just a little bit. But Aurora, big win for you guys. Coming off your Phase 3 your Phase 2 playoff victory, coming now into Phase 3. How important are these first few weeks of wins for you guys moving towards the second half of the phase?
I think it's good. I mean, I'm just happy that we're doing better.
Oh, fidget spinner.
Who could ever be disappointed with getting some big wins? But I think another important question, you guys got a LAN game tomorrow, taking on the Scarabs. How excited are you to play here on LAN against the Scarabs?
I'm feeling good. Are you going to be there tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow. You're going to be here tomorrow, so I'll see you here tomorrow for the LAN. I mean, I've got to be here. It's part of my job for it, and you got to be here because you guys said you would be.
It's
so
part of his job.
Aurora, congratulations. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you tomorrow here on the LAN.
Yo, thanks.
Always fun times with the Titans, and they brought the fidget spinner back from the Paul interview. And hey, Paul got a little bit of practice with it. He's looking pretty good with that fidget spinner now, Mifflin.
Yeah, man. He's looking. You can't let the players troll you like this, J-Mac. We gotta stay composed, bro.
We're just having fun out here.
All right, I'm glad you're having fun. The Tartarus Titans clearly having some fun as well.
Are you having fun, Mifflin?
Of course.
Well, speaking of fun, let's talk about the fun schedule for the rest of the weekend. We got one more day of SPL for this week, and then obviously we'll come back again next week. Matchups tomorrow: Atlantis Leviathans and Valhalla Valkyries will be the first set, and then as previously highlighted, the second set of the day here in studio, Tartarus Titans versus the Solar Scarabs. We'll get to see a look at the new Solar Scarabs after their Phase 2, not ending out so hot for them. We'll see if they can make a nice resurgence here in Phase 3 and maybe try and put a stop to the Tartarus Titans, but that's now, I believe, their 7th win in a row so far with the sets going through. And sitting here tied up at the #1 spot with 2 other teams. It looks a little odd in the standings, but remember, it's only 1 set played so far. We'll see some more shakeups as the remainder of the weeks go for the standings.
Yeah, we sure will. And again, it is Atlantis Leviathans versus the Valkyries, and then we've got the Titans and the Scarabs in studio tomorrow. Atlantis Leviathans versus Valkyries, I think we got some pretty fair expectations on how that one's going to pan out. But it is worth noting for that Scarab set that Inbound has gone on record, that is the support and team captain for the Solar Scarabs, that he is projecting at least a top 5 finish going into Worlds this year. That's bold words for the Solar Scarabs. These guys have been historically struggling throughout the year, have had some pretty wild roster shakeups and roster drama very recently, but that vote of confidence from Inbound, for some reason, has inspired me just a little bit. I feel like, he's not just saying it. He might actually have something cooking up.
Bobby can make a believer out of just about anybody with all the charisma he has built up. We'll see how the Scarabs can perform against the Titans tomorrow. But that's all that we got here for you today on the SPL. We'll be back again tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, for some more SPL action. So we'll hope to see you there.
Peaches.